journey to the cross. The feast of the Passover was only a few short days away. Jesus called his disciples together and said,
"We are going to Jerusalem. There, all the things written about me by the prophets will happen. I will be handed over to Roman leaders. I will be unkindly treated, and there I will die. But 3 days later, I will come back to life again."
On Sunday, Jesus came to the Mount of Olives, which is near Jerusalem. He sent 2 disciples ahead and told them,
"As you enter the village, you will find a donkey which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it to me. If anyone asks what you are doing, say, 'The Lord needs it.'"
The disciples obeyed Jesus and brought the donkey to him. They spread their coats over the donkey and put Jesus on his back. As Jesus approached Jerusalem, a huge crowd lined the road. Many spread their coats across the road and waved palm branches as if to welcome a hero. Together they shouted, "Hosanna to the King! Hosanna to the King!"
A house of prayer. On Monday, Jesus entered the temple in Jerusalem. He became very angry at the money changers and those buying and selling doves in God's house. He overturned their tables and drove them all out of the temple. Then he began to teach.
"Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer'? You have made it a robber's house."
When the priests heard what Jesus had done, they wanted rid of him. On Tuesday, Jesus awoke and returned to Jerusalem. Once again, he was greeted by huge crowds who followed him everywhere. The religious leaders began to worry.
What if Jesus leads the people against us? We could lose our power. We must stop him. Let's trick Jesus into saying something bad about Rome. Then Rome will arrest him, and we'll be done with him.
$30 pieces of silver. That night, Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to see the church leaders.
"I know that you want Jesus removed. What will you give me if I help you?"
They counted out 30 pieces of silver. Judas agreed and started planning to betray Jesus.
On Thursday evening, Jesus and his 12 disciples met in an upper room to celebrate the Passover. The meal was prepared by Peter and John. He taught them many things that evening. He said that being the greatest meant that we must serve others. Then he washed their feet as an example of what a servant does. When it came time to eat, Jesus took some bread, blessed it, and gave it to his disciples, saying,
"Take this bread and eat it, for it is my body."
And they all ate. Then, taking the cup, he gave thanks and said,
"This is my blood, which is spilled out for many. Do this in remembrance of me."
And they all drank. This was the first communion service. As the mealtime ended, Jesus spoke once more.
"Tonight, I am giving you a new commandment. Love one another. If you do this, everyone will know you are my disciples."
They sang a song, and together they went back to the Mount of Olives.
Prayer in the garden. Now there was a beautiful garden near the Mount of Olives called Gethsemane. Jesus and his disciples went there late Thursday night. Jesus said to them,
"Sit here while I go and pray."
He took Peter, James, and John with him.
"My heart is about to break with sorrow. Please stay awake and keep watch for me."
Then Jesus walked a little further and fell to the ground praying.
"Father, if it is possible, let these terrible things which are about to happen go away. Yet I am willing to do what you want, not what I want."
And Jesus prayed so very hard that the sweat on his forehead became drops of blood falling to the ground. When he returned to his disciples, he found them all asleep. Jesus returned to pray a second and third time, but each time he found his disciples sleeping. Then Jesus knew the worst was about to happen.
"Look, my betrayer is coming."
The betrayer comes. Luke 22:47. Through the darkness and down the narrow pathway came a mob of people carrying torches and clubs. Following was a small group of Roman soldiers. Judas was leading the way. He had told the mob to grab the one he would kiss and to take him away. With the mob behind him, Judas stood face to face with Jesus.
"Master,"
said Judas. Then he kissed Jesus. The mob grabbed him. Peter pulled out his sword. While trying to protect Jesus, he swung and cut off the ear of one of the chief priest's guards.
"Put away the sword."
Then Jesus reached out, touched, and healed the servant's ear. There in the darkness, the Roman soldiers and the Jewish leaders bound Jesus and took him away. The disciples were afraid and fled into the night.
The trials of Jesus. Early Friday morning, the many trials of Jesus began. People lied to judges about things Jesus had said and done. He was spat upon, beaten, and terribly abused. When Judas saw what was happening to Jesus, he was filled with sorrow. He knew he had sinned. He went to the temple and begged them to release Jesus, but they would not listen. Judas threw his coins on the temple floor and ran away. He could no longer live with himself knowing what he had done to Jesus. Finally, Jesus was brought before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor and judge. The Jewish leaders kept saying things that were untrue.
"He says he's a king, and he says we should not pay taxes to Caesar."
Pilate looked at Jesus, who had been badly beaten, and asked,
"Are you the king of the Jews?"
"My kingdom is not in this world."
"Then you are a king?"
"You say correctly that I am a king. But I come to this world to tell people the truth."
"What is truth?"
asked Pilate. Then he said,
"I find no wrong in this man. Let him go."
Each year during the Passover celebration, the Roman governor would release one prisoner. The people would decide which one. Pilate knew that the Jewish leaders were accusing Jesus because they were jealous of him.
The people love Jesus. So I'll let them choose between Jesus and that terrible murderer named Barabbas. Surely the people will choose Jesus.
So Pilate spoke to the crowd that had gathered.
"Should Jesus be set free or Barabbas?"
To Pilate's surprise, he heard them shouting,
Barabbas! Barabbas! Free Barabbas! 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 Free Barabbas!
What shall I do with Jesus?
Kill him! Kill him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Kill him!
Louder and louder, their cries rang out until Pilate, fearing a riot, decided to please them.
The Crucifixion, Luke 24:6. He has risen. Jesus was then turned over to the Roman soldiers. They stripped off his clothes and beat him with a whip. They made fun of him by putting a purple robe on his back and placing a crown of thorns on his head. Jesus was silent. Then they put his own clothes back on him and led him away to a place called Golgotha to be crucified. On Friday morning, they crucified Jesus and two lawbreakers, one on the right and the other on the left. As Jesus hung on the cross, he was heard to say,
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
Then one of the lawbreakers hanging with Jesus said,
If you really are the King of the Jews, save yourself.
But the other lawbreaker said,
Be quiet. We deserve to die because we have done so many bad things. This man has done nothing wrong. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. Remember me.
Jesus looked at this man and said,
Today, you will be with me in heaven.
A great darkness fell over the land for 3 hours. Jesus cried out from the cross with a loud voice,
It is finished. Father, I give to you my spirit.
And having said this, he died. Jesus' body was placed in the borrowed tomb of a secret disciple named Joseph. They rolled a large stone in front of the opening and went away. On Sunday morning, a woman named Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to the tomb. They found the giant stone had been rolled away. Upon the stone sat an angel who said,
Jesus is not here. He is alive. Quickly now, go tell his disciples.
They ran like the wind to tell the disciples.
Jesus has risen. He's alive.
They were so happy. Jesus appeared to many people. He walked with 2 followers on the Emmaus Road. Then Jesus visited the disciples in Jerusalem as they gathered to eat supper.
Peace be with you.
Jesus said. He ate with them and showed them his nail-scarred hands and feet. Jesus was truly alive. He had risen from the grave.
Remember what I said on the way to Jerusalem several days ago. I will be handed over to the Roman leaders. I will be unkindly treated, and just like the prophets said, I will die, and on the 3rd day I will come back to life again. All these things you have now seen. Now, you must go into every nation and tell them the good news of God's coming kingdom. Tell them that if they believe in me and my words, they will live forever, just like me.
Jesus stayed with the disciples a while longer. Then, after he had blessed each of them, he said,
I am going now to live with my Father and your Father. Be sure that I am always going to be with you.
Then Jesus rose up into the air until he disappeared in the clouds. As they were gazing into the sky, 2 men in white clothing stood beside them and said,
One day, Jesus will come again in this very same way.
Then the disciples returned to Jerusalem to start their ministries.